Madam President.
Senator from Colorado.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd ask the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Last month, over 50 Americans were killed in mass shootings in this country while we were on the August recess, when we should have been here doing our job. 100 Americans are killed every day from gun violence. There are 100 deaths in this room. There are 100 chairs behind each one of those deaths. And if these were the Americans killed by gun violence, they would add up to every single death that's in this room. And yet the majority leader didn't bring us back during the August recess, didn't say we should cancel our vacation and come back to work for the American people, hasn't put a bill on the floor or given the opportunity for anybody else to put a bill on the floor now that we've been back in session for the last 2 months. In Colorado alone, in the last 18 months, we've lost 885 people to gun violence. That's a record in my state, Madam President. The House of Representatives has done their job. I think more than 200 days ago, they passed background checks over there, and we haven't even taken them up over here. This isn't a matter of bringing the bill up and voting on the bill. We can't even get the bill to the floor for 200 days. We haven't been able to bring the bill to the floor. Why? Because the majority leader of the United States of America says that he's only going to bring gun legislation to the floor if he knows what the president will sign. That he's not capable, as the majority leader of the United States, to put an amendment on the floor for an up or down vote. Even when that amendment has passed the House of Representatives 200 days ago, and 96% of the American people support it. 96% of the American people support it. So why can't he bring it to the floor? He says that only if the president tells him what he'll sign will he bring it to the floor. And we all know how hard it is for the president to make up his mind about anything, particularly about guns, when he always has one thing to say right after a tragedy has happened, and then 2 days later, after he meets with the NRA, he's singing from a completely different song sheet. Here's what Mitch McConnell said in 2014. He said, quote, "The Senate should be setting national priorities, not simply waiting on the White House to do it for us." I wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment. This is an independent branch of government. The 100 people sitting in this room have been sent here to represent the people that voted for us and the people that didn't vote for us. And 96% of them said they want background checks on guns. But we can't even have a vote. I'd like to see a vote just so I could see who in this chamber wants to vote against background checks. I think it would be amazing to the American people to learn that, instead of just hiding behind this myth that the President of the United States gets to decide what comes to the floor. He's not the majority leader. There's one person in America who gets to decide what comes to this floor. One person in America, and that's the majority leader, Mitch McConnell from Kentucky. It's not Donald Trump. And he knew that in 2014, and he knows it today. But the NRA is too scared to see this thing come to the floor because they know it'll pass, and that they'll lose as a result of that. It's long past time for us to beat the NRA on this issue. I know my colleague from Washington State is here, so I won't go on for too long, but if I could just have a couple of minutes. I also am from a western state, the state of Colorado. 20 years ago, we had one of the very first school shootings in this country at Columbine High School. And in the wake of that, we passed background checks. We passed the same bill that Mitch McConnell won't bring to the floor. The same bill, almost 20 years ago. And my oldest daughter is 20 years old. She was born right after Columbine. And our two other daughters are 19 and 15. And like so many children across this country, they have grown up thinking that going to school was unsafe, that they could be shot in school. They had to do drills that we never had to do, Madam President, when we were kids. Never had to do it. And they have the knowledge that the United States Congress doesn't care about it, because for 20 years we've done nothing. In Colorado, a Western state, a Second Amendment state, we passed these background checks. And as a result, every year, 2 or 3% of the people that come to buy a gun can't buy a gun because they're murderers, or they're rapists, or they're domestic abusers. They're people that shouldn't have a gun. I'd like to see anybody come to this floor and tell me why Colorado would be more safe if we didn't have those background checks. Why would we be more safe if murderers got guns and rapists got guns and domestic abusers got guns? They can't come here and do it, and they're hiding from the vote. They're hiding from the vote. And it's their responsibility to vote. And there's only one person in America that can hold that vote, and that's Mitch McConnell. I can tell you this, it's not because we're too busy around here. We were in session last week for 27 hours. That's not even a French work week. That's pitiful. Pitiful. 27 hours. You know how many amendments we've considered in the 9 months that we've been here this year? 18. That's 2 amendments a month. We have passed 4 amendments in this broken place. Pitiful. Pitiful. Before he became majority leader, Mitch McConnell came down here and said that we were going to work on Fridays, that we were going to have regular order. 27-hour work week. And I can tell you this, it's not because we're considering the election protection legislation, which are bipartisan bills that senators in this chamber want to vote on to respond to the Russian attack on our democracy. It's not because we're too busy with those bills. We are doing nothing here except for confirming judges for Donald Trump. And I think I speak for my colleagues when I say I'm willing to work more than 27 hours. I'm willing to work a French work week or a U.S. work week if it means that we could actually have votes on amendments that 96% of the American people support. Madam President, I'll close by saying there is no one else to do this job but us. The House has done their job. Donald Trump can't make up his mind about anything. Maybe he'd like us to send him the background checks to help him make up his mind about what he can do for the American people. But I can tell you this, our kids can't do this. They're too busy. They are in school. They're trying to learn reading and try to learn math. They should not be asked to try to figure out how to stop these mass shootings in this country, or what it would look like to have a representative body of the United States actually represent the people that sent us here, instead of sitting around in our offices trying to avoid hard votes. How's it a hard vote when 9 out of 10 Americans support it? It's only a hard vote because the NRA is taking names and watching this. I say to my colleagues, we would be so much better off, Democrats and Republicans, ripping this Band-Aid off and getting on with the business that the American people sent us here to do. Mitch McConnell should put on this floor these background checks. Madam President, I thank my colleagues for their patience, and I yield the floor.